Hello, and welcome back to the Phases of Growth podcast. I am your host, Brittany Rose, and today we are going to talk about why people's New Year's resolutions never stick. And I think that making goals for yourself at the beginning of the year is a wonderful thing to do. I do it myself. I spend like the last week of the year reflecting. What did I accomplish? What did I struggle with? How do I want to shift? So I love New Year energy. I'm never going to say, like, don't focus on goals, don't focus on setting intentions or anything like that. However, myself and so many other people have gone into the new year super motivated to make a change, and then you're 2 weeks in and nothing is different, or you've just, you went to the gym for a couple of days and then you went back to your same old routine. And, people often talk about like, you need to have discipline and you have to force yourself into doing these things that you don't want to do, and that eventually it'll just become a habit. And that is true. And I can say for myself, in 2023, the beginning of 2023, I did 75 hard. So if you don't know what 75 hard is, it's this discipline challenge where you have to do 2 workouts um, a day. Each of them have to be 45 minutes long. One of them has to be outside. You have to pick a diet and stick with it. You have to drink a gallon of water. You have to read, I think it's 20 pages out of like a nonfiction book. And you have to take a picture of yourself, like progress pictures every single day. I think those are all of the things. I could be forgetting something. But anyways, so you have to do all of that for 75 days. And I did this. And in the beginning, I was super motivated. I was excited. I was like, heck yeah, it's raining out, and I'm still going to go for my walk and be outside for 45 minutes. And then by the end, it got to be very draining, and it got to be very negative for my mental health. I was definitely like pushing myself harder than my system wanted me to. And it just, I did it. I got to the 75th day. I did all of the things. So I can say I completed 75 hard. But after that completion, I kind of went on a little bit of a downward spiral and then started going back to unhealthy eating habits, not exercising as much because I had burned myself out. So, can you force yourself into change? You can. But to me, I don't believe that when we force ourselves into change that it is actually a lasting change that we're going to have. So the reason I think that people do not stick with New Year's resolutions is because there is a part of their subconscious mind that is attached to either a story or a behavior that keeps you stuck in unhealthy patterns. So I believe that we are made of many different parts of self. And this comes from, think about it in terms of shadow work. My background as a clinical therapist is I've been trained in a model of therapy called internal family systems therapy. And that was developed by Richard Schwartz. It is evidence-based. It has been life-changing for me personally. And the premise of internal family systems is we have many different parts. And a lot of our parts are parts of self that want to protect us in some ways. So some of those parts might be like a firefighter part where they are like managing a crisis, right? So you had a really stressful day at work, you're dysregulated, your nervous system is out of balance. And so you come home and you drink a bottle of wine or you eat a gallon of ice cream, right? That's a firefighter part where your system recognizes like, whoo, we're not okay. We're not okay. We got to do something to make us more okay. Right. And so I eat that gallon of ice cream. I feel better. Great. Okay. So that's a part of me. Then there's manager parts that are trying to prevent crises from happening. Right. So like when I think of like one of my manager parts, it's like this very like professional businesswoman with a clipboard and glasses. And she's like keeping track of things and making sure that I'm using my planners, I'm remembering the things I need to do. I'm staying on top of my responsibilities because she does not want to make or she wants to make sure that a crisis does not happen. That I don't forget to pay a bill or something like that. That's just an example. There's lots of different ways that managers show up in our lives and firefighters as well. So if we think about it in terms of like the behaviors we want to change, a lot of times at the beginning of the year, it's around eating habits, exercising habits, substance use habits, right? Each of those things is associated with a different part of self that is maybe at war with another part of self. So I have a part of me that very much wants to be a healthy person, wants to eat whole, natural, healthy foods, wants to exercise daily. I want to be in good shape. I want to feel good physically, right? That is a very strong part of who I am at my core. And then there are parts of me who feel better by eating. They find comfort in eating, they find protection in eating, right? If I'm full of food, I don't feel other people's emotions as strongly. So these different parts are at war within myself. So it's like, sure, can I bully the parts of me that want to protect me by eating into submission for 75 days? Yep, I can. And then on the 76th day, they're going to be like, all right, let's go. And that's exactly what happened to me. So I've learned through my own journey of losing over 100 pounds and then gaining, I don't know how much back because I don't want to look at the scale, that I did do parts work to help me start losing weight, but I didn't go deep enough. And there's more parts that need help in terms of my eating habits and my health habits and the way that I cope with stress that I have more work to do. And so I've been doing that work. And like I said, for people who get really frustrated with yourself the second week in the new year because your changes aren't lasting, right? You're not being successful with the goals that you set for yourself. It's so much deeper than just deciding I want to make a change, right? You have to kind of go inside of yourself, work with those parts of self to get your system to agree that it is safe and it's okay for you to make that change. And so there's a process that we do in therapy and internal family systems therapy. And that's, to be honest, if you know me or if you've, done therapeutic work with me, internal family systems is my preferred model of therapy. If I was told like you can only do one form of therapy for the rest of your life, I would choose internal family systems every single day because I think it is that powerful. So there's things that you can do on your own, and then there's things that you probably do require assistance with from a trained professional. But the parts that you can do on your own is getting to know your system and why you make the decisions that you make, right? Like I've known for years I have disordered eating, but until I started doing internal family systems work, I didn't understand how many different layers there were to that. There, like I said, there's the protection from feeling other people's emotions. There's the comfort that I get, the dopamine hit, feeling better by eating sugar of some sort. There's, in more recent times, we didn't have a ton of money, so we couldn't go do fun things, but we could afford a pint of ice cream, right? And so I chose pleasure from food because that's what my system felt like it needed to make me feel okay in those difficult moments. So our parts are trying to keep us both physically and emotionally safe. Feeling sad, feeling stressed out, that is not safe to those parts. And so they're going to try to do whatever they can that they know works to make you feel better. And those parts of you that are trying to make you feel better are typically pretty young parts. They're immature. They don't have a ton of wisdom. They just know this one thing. Ice cream means Brittany feels better. Let's eat it, right? So they aren't thinking about the long-term consequences of that repeated action, right? The part of me that's like, yes, eat the ice cream. It's not thinking, well, if I do that every single day, I'm going to gain weight and I'm not going to feel good, right? It's just thinking about the here and now. That is going to make me feel better. So again, part of this is getting curious, getting to know those parts, understanding their motivation, understanding where they're coming from, and then introducing to those parts that there is a better way of doing things and that there is actually an adult in charge. And that adult is your authentic self. In internal family systems, they refer to it as self energy. Lots of people talk about your higher self. I refer to authentic self because that just feels more aligned for me than saying higher self, although sometimes I may refer to it as your higher self. But I believe we're all talking about the same thing. And so it's your authentic self is the most spiritually aligned part of you. It's to me, if I'm talking about it in spiritual terms, it's the part of me that's connected to source energy, divine love. This part of you is very wise. It is very healing. So just by learning how to open up to your authentic self, you can help your parts heal and let go and unburden what they're holding on to so that they can either, to me, a lot of my parts just integrate back into my authentic self. Or sometimes they kind of like grow up with you and then they take on a new role that's a healthier role for you in your life. So I will definitely talk more about the authentic self in future podcast episodes and how to work with your authentic self. But today we're just kind of going to focus on like your parts and how they show up in your life. And so a lot of times I think we get very frustrated with our parts because they're not showing up in the best way, right? Like I have these health goals and then consistently make choices for myself that are not in alignment with those goals and that vision I have for myself. That is super frustrating. Like, so frustrating, right? However, your parts aren't going to change if you bully them. They're not going to be receptive to sharing information with you if you come at them in a harsh way, right? Like, we have to learn how to befriend our system and to be very understanding and compassionate. When I've learned, like, like I shared earlier, over the summer, I was eating a lot of ice cream because I didn't have a lot of money and I couldn't do a lot of things. And so I was trying to make myself feel better by eating ice cream. Once I learned that, I could have made the choice to be really mad at myself, but instead I kind of was like, okay. So the part of me that is just trying to make me feel better, I see what you're trying to do. I appreciate that you're trying to make me feel better. And I know I have healthier options, right? I can go for a walk in nature and get that sense of pleasure. I can give myself Reiki, I can do meditation, I can go hang out with a friend, right? So there I I had to introduce to that part of me like this, even though you feel like this is the only way, this is not the only way. And it might seem weird, like I'm talking about parts as if they're separate from you, and they're not, but at the same time, they have their own consciousness. And so when you start doing this work and you learn how to separate yourself from your parts, you will learn to have conversations with them, and these parts will answer you in oftentimes very unexpected ways. So to get to know your parts, I'm going to just walk you through very, very quick little exercise. I want you to think about something that you've had a hard time changing. And once you have that, I want you to take a couple deep breaths and just focus inside. And then I want you to set the intention, the part of me that does whatever that you want to work on. Can you please step forward and separate from me? And then just notice where you're feeling that in or around your body. And once you have a sense of that part, get curious. What is your job in my life? How did you get this job? How do you feel about doing this for me? You might ask questions like, how old are you? How old do you think I am? And any time that you come up, like the part might say, I think you're 4. I've had that many a times. Update that part. You know what? I'm not 4. I'm actually 38. And then just spend some time with that part, just asking any questions that you have to get to know it better, to understand its role, understand its purpose of being in your life, what it's doing for you. And then you just share some love and compassion. Thank you for doing this. I understand you feel like this is the best way. And I'm hopeful we can learn how to work together so that we're healthy, right? So today is just like learning about how do I get to know these parts of me so I have awareness. And so that when that behavior comes up again that I'm trying to change, I've illuminated it and I understand why it's present. And with that awareness, I have power to say to that part, okay, I understand that eating ice cream would make me feel better right now. And I'm going to make a different choice because I'm thinking about the long term. So instead, maybe I'm going to have a yogurt, right? Like giving it an alternative. It's not ice cream, but maybe it's a little bit of a healthier option that this part could be like, okay, yogurt sounds great. The key with this is to not shame yourself and to not shame your parts because shame has never helped anyone heal. It just creates more division. It just creates more stress within your system. More parts develop to kind of shield the shame or to like manage that shame. So, whenever you are trying to get to know a part of yourself and understand yourself better, always approach it with love and compassion. That is the most important thing I need to say today is always approach your parts with love and compassion. And the other thing that I think people don't realize is you may start to make some changes and you might talk to your parts and you might have a better understanding and then things go back to the way that they were. And so something people need to understand is your parts and your ego are going to fight to keep things the same because that's what feels the safest. Even though a lot of times it is actually the opposite of what is safe and what is healthy for you, this is what your parts know. And so they are going to fight to keep things the way that they are. They're going to fight to keep those limiting beliefs. They're going to fight to keep those behaviors, right? And so, again, a lot of the healing that has to be done is developing a relationship with your authentic self so that you can bring in this newer, wiser energy and show your parts that there is safety within your system. There's an adult at the wheel. They've got it. They know what to do. They can lead, right? But until your parts recognize that, they're going to just fight to stay the same. There is a lot of work involved with helping your parts unburden and to shift. But once you understand how to get in connection with your parts and then your authentic self, the work is really easy. And it's not easy. I guess I shouldn't say easy, but it's like it makes sense. And a lot of times your system can do it with very little intervention from a therapist or from yourself, even. Like if I think of it as I'm having like a three-way conversation. I'm me, myself, then there's the part that I'm talking to, and my authentic self, and we're all sitting in a room together, right? And a lot of times I'm just the observer, whereas my part's unburdening and telling its story, and my authentic self is coming in with love and compassion and healing energy. So it is really incredible. I love doing this work. If this speaks to you and you would like some help with some of your goals, please feel free to reach out to me either through email or through my website, and we can talk about working together. I also am planning on offering a course that goes along with my book, Align and Bloom. I talk a lot about this topic of doing parts work and working and developing a relationship with your authentic self in Align and Bloom. And I'm planning on at some point in this year offering that as a course. I'm not exactly sure. I'm going to feel like it's going to be like a 6-week long course, but those details have not been entirely ironed out yet. So stay tuned for that. But if you would like one-on-one help, feel free to certainly check out my website, which is listed in the show notes. And yeah, I also, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'll list that in the show notes as well. I have lots of guided meditations, and in my Align and Bloom playlist, there are guided meditations to help you get to know different parts of yourself, as well as connecting with your authentic self. So, like I said, today we're just talking about parts and the reasons why New Year's resolutions don't stick. And next week, we will talk about how your authentic self and how to connect with your authentic self. So that is what I have for you guys today. I hope that this was helpful, and I will talk to you again soon. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.